Last year, we liked former Edmonton Oilers. I guess this year, we like former Vancouver Canucks. It's just worked out that way, I'm going to say. Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and we're already a couple days in Free Agent Frenzy. And despite the flat salary cap and the fact that, we don't know about league revenues or when next season is going to begin or how economic conditions are going to be, I would still say the Free Agent Frenzy still provided some excitement. I would say even more this season, given how things are weird this year, that there was no courting period 5 days prior to Free Agent Frenzy beginning, where you could potentially woo players to come play on your side. And I've already made my video separately where I talked about the main fish that the Calgary Flames signed in Free Agent Frenzy in Jacob Markstrom. But in this video, I'm going to look at all the free agents that we brought in to the Calgary Flames, and all the free agents that we are going to say bye-bye to, as it sounded like that was going to happen, that many of our free agents that were going to hit the market were likely going to go elsewhere, and that definitely has been the case already a couple days in. But surprisingly, actually already a couple days in Free Agent Frenzy, the biggest names that are still out there as of this recording is Alex Pietrangelo, although there's been reports that he's touring around Vegas, and Taylor Hall, as there hasn't been a decision on Taylor Hall yet where he's signed. But the Calgary Flames, I would say, made the biggest signing when it comes to the goaltending, which I made that separate video to talk about Jacob Markstrom, and saying that I think we finally found a stud goalie. But let's look over all the free agents that the Calgary Flames have picked up so far, and I guess former Canucks are the theme this year. I mean, last year was former Oilers. I mean, remember when we signed Cam Talbot, and then we brought in Tobias Reader on a professional tryout, and oh yeah, we made that trade with the Edmonton Oilers where we decided to exchange bad contracts for James Neal for Milan Lucic. But it's just weird. I mean, it's a business, and once you're a free agent, you're free to go anywhere else. But it's going to be kind of satisfying that the former Vancouver Canucks that we brought in, they're definitely going to look a lot better in red, especially with the roles we have for them. So obviously coming to the Calgary Flames, well, the headline is Jacob Markstrom, the goalie, as the Calgary Flames signed goalie Jacob Markstrom, and I made a separate video giving my take on that I feel my emotions about that signing. And I think we finally have a stud goalie that we've been seeking since Mika Kaprizov retired 7 years ago. It tells you how many goalies you've gone through. But he signed 6 years for $36 million. So I would say $6 million a season for, I would say it was the top goalie available on the market in his prime, and doesn't need to have far to go. And he's going to be familiar with the Calgary Flames, considering he was a Vancouver Canuck and playing in the Pacific Division, and also satisfying that we outbid the Edmonton Oilers to get him. But that's not the only former Vancouver Canuck that the Calgary Flames signed. As I think coming in, if you looked at my previous videos, that we had a lot of pending unrestricted free agents on defense, and I think a lot of them are going to go bye-bye. But one guy that we brought in is another former Vancouver Canuck and defenseman Chris Tanev, as we signed Chris Tanev to a 4-year deal worth $18 million, and he is getting paid $4.5 million a season. I would say he definitely is going to replace a void. More likely, I'm assuming that Travis Hamonic is going to be going elsewhere. As of this recording, as I know, he is still not signed. But Chris Tanev, I would say, would be a nice replacement for Travis Hamonic that we are likely going to move on from. The only caution to have with Chris Tanev is the fact that, I mean, this past season he actually played all games in the regular season, even though we didn't play a full season. But he's had some injury problems in the past, but you could still get 50, 60 games at worst out of him. But Chris Tanev, he's going to be rounded out in the top 4, I would say, nicely for the Calgary Flames. And I think the other reason, one reason that he was available is that Vancouver was not willing to offer more than 2 years at just over $4 million. Here we are giving him 4 years at $4.5 million, and I explained more in depth why I think Jacob Markstrom was available. It's a combination of Vancouver's in a cap crunch, and then we got the Seattle Kraken draft to worry about next season, and Thatcher Demko is starting to look him on as a goalie that is the future for the Vancouver Canucks and a cheaper option. But that's why those two players are available. So many Canuck fans, I think, are probably, I'm going to say, be disappointed that they could not keep those two players. And they're probably going to say it's going to sting a lot more that they're going to my boys, the Calgary Flames. And those are the biggest signings so far that the Calgary Flames have made. The other players that we made are minor signings. Well, we signed another defenseman in Alex Petrovic. We signed him to a one-year deal at league minimum at $700,000. However, it's a two-way deal, so there's two salaries attached to it, as I saw. I think if he's in the minor leagues, let's say with Stockton, he'll get $350,000 at worst. But it's a two-way deal. I would say it's more defensive depth here. I would say Alex Petrovic probably would replace Michael Stone as that extra defenseman, because I think we are going to finally move on with him. I mean, we did buy him out last season, and then we welcomed him back because of the Yusuf Alamaki injury. And speaking of Yusuf Alamaki, we loaned him overseas to play in Europe, and he's actually looking good. So he's actually going to get some game action over in Europe right now until we want to know when the 2020-21 season. There's been many players that, younger players that have been loaned over to Europe to play some games before they come back here whenever next season is going to start. And if you read the headlines or rumors, the NHL seems to be more focused on New Year's Day instead of beginning of December. And then the last goalie that we actually signed another goalie, and guess what? He also used to play for the Vancouver Canucks most recently, and actually I remember goalie Louis Domingue. I remember how high his stock was when he played for the Tampa Bay Lightning, because he had great numbers as a backup with the Tampa Bay Lightning as he was playing behind Andrei Vasilevsky. But Louis Domingue has actually been a journeyman because he spent some time with the I think he was a Pittsburgh. I know he played for the New Jersey Devils as well, and then he was most recently with the Vancouver Canucks. He is also signed to a one-year, two-way deal. He signed a one-year, $700,000 contract. Two-way, more likely, I'm assuming that with Jacob Markstrom being here as the starter, and I'm going to assume we're going to keep David Rittich for another season. That's definitely an upgraded tandem, that Louis Domingue. And if you watch the Brad Livens video talking about the Jacob Markstrom signing, that Calgary was looking for another goalie to be in the system, as you got Artem Zagadule and we got Tyler Parsons. However, he has injuries, so that Louis Domingue would fulfill a need in the farm system, and probably between him or Artem Zagadule, and if unforeseen happens, if one or either David Rittich, assuming we still have David Rittich, and Jacob Markstrom get injured, that he'll be a call-up. So those are the guys coming to the Calgary Flames. It's worked out that 3 of the 4 of them are former Canucks, as Alex Petrovic most recently was with the Boston Bruins organization. And I think he actually spent some time with Edmonton as well. So that's who we signed after Free Agent Frenzy began. Other players that are returning that we have locked up again, these are more depth players. Zack Ronaldo, he is returning to the Calgary Flames for another season. Signed a similar deal that he signed last season, a one-year deal. $700,000 two-way contract, so it's split up between two salaries. But Zack Ronaldo actually played in the Calgary Flames in the playoff run, so fourth line depth here. And Buddy is coming back, as in Buddy Robinson. He's also buddies with Johnny Gaudreau. Enough Buddy references here, but we are bringing back Buddy Robinson. He also signed a one-year deal worth $700,000, and this contract actually works out. It's not two-way, so he makes $700,000, as I found, regardless if he's playing up here in Calgary or in Stockton. I mean, Buddy Robinson played a few games with the Calgary Flames last year, but spent more time with the Stockton Heat. And then the last player that we re-signed after when Free Agent Frenzy began was Byron Froze, as we signed him to a one-year deal worth $700,000 two-way contract. I don't think Byron Froze played any games with the Calgary Flames last season, but he was depth on the Stockton Heat, and I think he actually was one of their top scorers. And then a few other players that we signed before October 9th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time when Free Agent Frenzy began. Well, we brought back Justin Kirkland, the forward, as his from organizational depth for a 1-year deal with $700,000 two-way deal, which, basically it looks, all these two-way deals that are signed was if he's with the Flames in the NHL, he will make the $700,000, but if he's in Stockton, he makes half that, which is still a lot better than what most people make. And then we actually did sign Artem Zagadule, the goalie that we got from the Continental Hockey League, which I don't know if you could say he's our third or fourth string goalie now that we have Louis Domingue as part of the system. He's also signed a 1-year deal with $700,000 two-way deal. So those are all the Flames that we brought in or are coming back to the Calgary Flames. However, here's the rough part of Free Agent Frenzy sometimes is we have to say goodbye to some players. And we was apparent that Cam Talbot, we could not come to an agreement with him, and he was able to hit the market. And I would say ultimately it's good for Cam how much he's going to get, and thanks for all he's done with the Calgary Flames the one season that he was here. Well, Cam Talbot, he signed a 3-year deal with $11 million with the Minnesota Wild, so he's going to make just over $3.5 million the next 3 seasons for the Minnesota Wild. I guess if I'm offered that, I would move shop to Minnesota as well, which that opened up the door for Calgary to sign Jacob Markstrom, and I would say at this stage Jacob Markstrom is an upgrade over Cam Talbot, but I don't think the Flames would have been willing to pay that much and give that much term for Cam Talbot. But he's off to the Minnesota Wild. Well, I'm going to say our defense is definitely going to look a lot different. Well, TJ Brodie, he is going to the Toronto Maple Leafs, as he got just a little bit of raise. I mean, he was making about $4.6 million the last few years with the Calgary Flames, and TJ Brodie, it's going to look weird to not see him wear red because he's only played for the Calgary Flames his whole entire career. But he signed a 4-year deal worth $20 million. He's going to get $5 million a season to play with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we're going to probably hear just as much or more about TJ Brodie now that he's going to Toronto than he was here in Calgary. So I'd say especially for Cam Talbot and TJ Brodie, I mean, thanks for all you've done for the Calgary Flames. I'll miss you, but best of luck with your new teams. And I mean, TJ Brodie's played over 600 games with the Calgary Flames, and I mean, he had a rough season this past season and was moved around in the lineup, and unfortunately he had that health scare, but he definitely will fulfill a need that the Toronto Maple Leafs need a lot more. That I think we have still some depth in defense, but we definitely need to replenish some defensive depth elsewhere. I'm going to say still the Chris Tanev signing that we signed, I would say would potentially replace Travis Hamnick a lot more because TJ Brodie has a little more offensive upside on the power play, but he definitely will be missed here in Calgary. But we'll be welcomed in Toronto. I'll tell you that, Leaf fans, as he's also great in the community. So good luck to TJ Brodie in Toronto. And then another player actually, we'll miss him as well, not on the power play, but in the penalty kill. Well, Tobias Reader, he signed a 1-year deal worth $700,000 with the Buffalo Sabres. So Tobias Reader is going to Buffalo. I'm gonna assume that. I mean, that's league minimum. I know that Tobias Reader, when he signed him last year, it was a professional tryout. I think it was a two-way deal. And actually, there was a time, a month in the season, we put him on waivers. But obviously, how he played with the Calgary Flames down the stretch and in the playoffs, especially being a threat shorthanded, I was hoping that we would be able to keep Tobias Reader. Or maybe he had more of an opportunity, more guaranteed playing time with Buffalo, which is why I would say maybe he signed with the Buffalo Sabres. So best of luck to you, Tobias, off to Buffalo. And now another player that was more of a depth player that spent more time with Stockton, but forward Alan Klein, he is actually going to Edmonton. So yeah, another player that's going to join the club that has played for both Alberta teams. Well, Alan Klein, he is going to the Edmonton Oilers. He signed a 1-year deal worth $700,000. So Alan Klein will now be playing for the bad guys, in my mind, in Alberta. But he did play more time with the Stockton Heat than the Calgary Flames the couple seasons that we had him. And then a couple other players that are moving elsewhere. While We did not qualify Mark Jankowski. I'm not surprised that we have moved on from Mark Jankowski, as he definitely wasn't that Joe Nieuwendyk that was panned out that the previous brass drafted him and was high him back in 2012. He had a few moments. I mean, he had that one season that he scored 17 goals, but we just wasn't willing to qualify him, which means that if you're restricted, you are either a restricted free agent if you don't qualify him. Because if you qualify him, you would have to pay him 10% more of his salary. And I think if we would have qualified him, I think he would have been making almost $1.9 million, and that's a little steep price to pay for someone that's been iffy in and out of the lineup. And he didn't play during the playoffs. Zack Ronaldo played over favor of Mark Jankowski, but maybe he knew the market, or this is a show-me contract, because he signed a one-year deal worth $700,000 with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and maybe he sees an opportunity to maybe show that he can be more of a playmaking center with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and maybe he can cash in again next season if things get better. But yeah, Mark Jankowski, he is now going to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and actually he'll be a little closer to home, because I know he went to high school in Stansted, and that's that town that's famous, or infamously known for being divided by the Canada-U.S. border. Well, a couple other players that are moving elsewhere. Well, John Gillies is the goalie that we drafted back in 2011. I remember we were high on John Gillies, but it looked apparent that this was going to be the last season that he was with the Calgary Flames organization. He signed a one-year deal worth $700,000, two-way deal with the St. Louis Blues. So I guess that's another reason why we looked at getting in Louis Domingue to replace John Gillies in the system. And then I'm most surprised at this signing, but this was another player that we signed as an undrafted free agent. He was more of a depth scrapping forward that we might bring in for a physical presence. Well, Ryan Lombard, he actually signed a two-year deal worth $725,000 with the Florida Panthers. So, and it's a one-way deal. So I was actually pleasantly surprised that he's going to Florida. So that's who is going bye-bye. So best of luck to all the players that I mentioned that will be going elsewhere. Hopefully you found a better fit with the two teams you're going with, and thanks for all you've done with the Calgary Flames. Now, who is still available? Well, Austin Czarnik is still available. I don't see a situation where he's going to come back, and Austin Czarnik, I say based on his career, I mean, a couple of seasons ago when we signed him, apparently 24 teams was after him, and we was the one team that he chose to go with. And we had a few stints with the Calgary Flames, but I know this past season he spent more time with the Stockton Heat, and he's proven that he can score at the AHL level, but he doesn't necessarily translate that to the NHL level. I don't see Austin Czarnik coming back. I don't see Calgary circling back on him. Derek Forbert, I probably going to think he's going to probably go elsewhere. I mean, he was just another depth defenseman that we acquired at the deadline because we were short on defense going down the stretch drive, and then unfortunately the stretch drive got paused. But Derek Forbert, I mean, we have plenty of other defensemen that could fill his role. He had an expensive cap hit. I think he was making over $2 million a season on that last contract, but he's going to probably grab on somewhere else as a depth forward, but I would be surprised if it's with us. So I think he's going on. Erik Gustafsson, that's a maybe. I might see him still coming back. However, I can also see him easily go somewhere else. He's also another bottom of the pair defenseman. However, that can help on the power play. I know we gave up a third-round pick for him at the deadline last season, but I haven't heard any rumors about these players yet as of this recording, but I'm going to say it's a maybe about Erik Gustafsson potentially coming back, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he goes elsewhere. And then Travis Hamonic, I would say, of the players that are still available, is probably the biggest name that, as of this recording, has not been signed. And I've been under the consensus that, before going into Free Agent Frenzy, that TJ Brodie and Travis Hamonic were going to move on. My personal guess, this is just my personal speculation, that I think Travis Hamonic, I could see him going to the Winnipeg Jets. Or could it be crazy if Edmonton has cap space? I know that they recently signed Tyson Barrie, and that was another player that apparently the Calgary Flames were also kicking tires on, but I'd say the Chris Tanev was probably the best option. But I think Travis Hamonic, I could see him potentially maybe going to Winnipeg, stay in Western Canada. But I haven't heard anything about him, but he is... No, I don't think he's going to come back. And then Michael Stone, same with defenseman Michael Stone. Well, the fact that we bought him out last year and brought him back because of the Yusuf Valimaki injury, I don't think Michael Stone's going to be coming back. So I haven't heard anything either. And then there was a couple other players. Well, I know Rinat Valiev, he's a Group 6 free agent, which I'm not quite sure. I think he's old. I think Group 6 means that he's older and doesn't have to require a certain number of games to play to be qualified as an unrestricted free agent. Ultimately, he was traded away in that Montreal Canadiens trade when we traded Brett Kulak. I'm going to say Montreal won that deal because they got more out of Brett Kulak than we have of Rinat Valiev. I'm not too sure if he's even played a game with the Calgary Flames. He spent more time with the Stockton Heat, so, I mean, it won't move the needle either way if we keep him or goes elsewhere. And then a couple other players that we did not qualify that are going to be unrestricted free agents, like Mark Jankowski. Well, Andrew Nielsen, the forward, well, he's another player that likely is a career AHLer because we traded Morgan Klimchuk to Toronto. That's how we got Andrew Nielsen. So he's a free agent, so he's available. But I guess someone might pick him up for organizational depth. And goaltender Nick Schneider, he was an undrafted free agent that we signed a couple of seasons ago, but we have some other goalies in the pipeline right now. We didn't qualify him, so he's not qualified. So those are all the players that are still available. I'm going to say Travis Hamonic is the biggest name. You'll grab on somewhere. Same with Eric Gustafsson and Derek Forbert. I know those are the three defensemen for sure that I would say, well, for sure, be on an opening day roster somewhere. Everyone else will likely be somewhere else in, somewhere either in the AHL or if they desire go overseas. But I'm going to say Eric Gustafsson, personally, I think is a maybe to come back, but I think all the players that I mentioned are still available. I don't see them coming back. And then when the other players that we qualified, well, we did qualify defenseman Oliver Shillington, which means that if they don't go for arbitration, they get 10% more. Well, Andrew Mangiapane, we obviously had to qualify him. It's one player that we have to keep. However, he did file for arbitration, so hopefully we can get a deal with him before that happens. And we also did qualify Tyler Parsons, so those are the players that we have qualified, which is not surprising when you look at the pending restricted free agents we had, that who we qualified and who we didn't qualify. So I have no, arguments with the players that we have qualified. So if you look at the cap-friendly numbers with all the transactions that we made, with the Jacob Markstrom signing, the Chris Tanev signing, the Alex Petrovic signing, and the Louis Domingue signing, that headlines it, that the Calgary Flames have spent $75.8 million. That's their cap hit coming into this season. Keep in mind that $2.6 million of that is still dead space, that we still got Troy Brouwer's cap hit and Michael Stone's cap hit for buying them out. But they're going to come off the books. Troy Brouwer, I think, comes off the books, I believe, next season. So we still have some dead cap space. But the Flames have $5.7 million in cap space. And keep in mind, we got Shillington, Mangiapane to definitely still have to sign up. And then we only have 17 out of 23 on the roster. So we still have some work to do to fill those holes. And then we still have room to have contracts in the organization. We have 36 out of 50. And then the reserve, they say 57 out of 90. So that's all I have for the Calgary Flames in terms of Free Agent Frenzy on who we brought in. I mean, the biggest name is obviously Jacob Markstrom and Chris Tanev, but it's just interesting that last season we brought in a bunch of former Oilers, and now this year it seems like we're bringing in a bunch of former Canucks. But I'm going to say we will have a new look defense next season because of the Chris Tanev sign and the fact that TJ Brodie is off to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and likely I'm going to assume Travis Hamonic is going somewhere else. And we've already spent the big bucks on Jacob Markstrom and Chris Tanev, but I would say that Markstrom is definitely the upgrade for the goaltending and would make a nice tandem with David Riddick if that's the direction we're going. And then Chris Tanev, I would say, would replace Travis Hamonic role in terms of being a stay-at-home defenseman in the top four. And we'll see, how the qualifying offers go, or, if there's any other trades that we make, or any other signings that we make. But I know the biggest names that we have made are already been done. So, what do you think of it, of what the Calgary Flames have done? I just think we made some smart choices right now. I'm not surprised at who we qualified and who we didn't qualify. And I would say of all the players that we are losing in free agent frenzy, I was pleasantly surprised at how much money Ryan Lombard is getting with the Florida Panthers, I would say. TJ Brodie, that seems to be about what you would likely get on the market. And I would think that was probably a little more rich than what Calgary wanted to sign for. But I just say, what do you think? That's basically all the shopping that we have done for Calgary Flames and Free Agent Frenzy. And I'll plan to make future videos as these off-season continues and whenever next season is going to begin on any other signings or trades that are made. I mean, I would still be surprised if the Calgary Flames make any major big trades. I mean, there's all this talk about Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan, but I don't think they're going to get traded. I'd be stunned if they do, and if they do get traded, it better be worth it. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of the Flames, Hip, and Roughnecks and Stampeders, I mostly talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, but I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I also do share my experiences, let's say I'm on the road or at a sport event. So if it all sounds like it'd be interesting to watch, to follow along this Calgary sports fans journey, you know what you need to do, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below for other ways you can follow me. So I have to say, for all the players that have come in to the Calgary Flames, I would say welcome to the Sea Red. I mean, I'm definitely most excited for the Jacob Markstrom signing. I think we finally got a stud goalie that we've been seeking since Mika Kiprasov retired, and I think Chris Tanev would make a nice fit with the Calgary Flames on defense. Just hope that the injury bug doesn't bite him as hard, given how he plays. But tonight, those are definitely the biggest nice additions, and everyone else are just complimentary players looking down the roster. And, as I say, I'll see you in the next video.